Hello and welcome to episode 95 of the Talking Wednesday podcast. James and Jack with you this week. Jake is Jake. I can't say. Do you know the video got demonetized because I said he's not at the start of last episode?
Oh,
the podcast
really?
got demonetized because I said it in the first 30 seconds, and then
I can't believe that.
I had to manually review it.
I
to
can't
get it
believe.
back.
Oh no!
Luckily, the human did say no. That's fine. It's clear you were making, a reference to something. But I was like, the algorithm, it's out there. It goes for you. But yes.
Oh,
He's not here this week. We don't know where he is. He's down a well somewhere.
he's off in the wilderness. He's being a wild man.
I heard he really enjoyed Greg's, so he started his
Yes.
own chain of Greg's, and he thought that the batter could be slightly flakier. So he's dedicated the last 6 months of his life to developing a flakier batter, and he's redefining what Greg's means, and he's trying to dominate the South. Actually,
Absolutely.
he's moved south and tried to make Greg's the mainstay. More Greg's than Waitrose is his new mantra. I don't know what I'm saying.
250 likes on the YouTube portion of the broadcast that you will see in due course. And the picture of Mr. Greg's man will be released on the Twitter account, but only if there's 250 likes on the YouTube video for this particular episode.
That stayed in the vault, innit? We should start doing stuff like that. 'Cause
Yeah.
I do it with the YouTube stuff, but there's no way that's happening. On
Absolutely
the likes.
not.
But we'll start
It's an
higher
ambitious
than maybe.
target, why not?
Do go and actually support the Twitter. I'm gonna might have to sign off on Jack's Photoshop skills because I saw something and I was like, you've started putting Photoshops on the Twitter now.
And
I was like,
great.
No, and I was like, we might have to have some sort of process where I sign off on these things. And Jack goes, am I going too far with some things? And I go, Jack, not tasteful for the current moment, not appropriate for the current moment. But then again, also, I kind of don't want to do that because then I've also signed off on something that will just get us both in trouble. So, oh well. Some of the stuff he suggests putting on the Twitter doesn't end up on the Twitter.
It
Let's
does not.
Just say that.
It does not. It's funny, but it does not go on the Twitter because it.
No. Jake did just compare you to bringing. He did say, "Oh well, we wanted to bring you on for some reason." He said we wanted to bring a younger person onto the podcast. That wasn't it because when I first spoke to you, I thought you were like 58.
Thanks.
I only heard your voice.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I get that a lot. I do get that a lot. Believe it or not.
That's not on your looks, by the way. The first time I ever spoke to you, it was your voice.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You sounded like a chartered accountant.
A chartered accountant. Well, I'll try and see the compliment in there somewhere. Chartered account. All chartered accountants listening to this podcast will be extremely offended that they think that this degenerate's worko is remotely connected to any of them in their profession.
I don't know why I said a chartered accountant. It wasn't. It was just the first thing that came to my head. You've got a radio voice, basically.
Thank you.
And I think I did compliment you on your radio voice at the start. But how have you been this week, Jack?
I've been okay. I've been okay. I've taken up boxing actually. Well, I say taken up boxing, but I'm finding it quite enjoyable and quite therapeutic just to let all my rage, withheld rage, go into a dangling bag. It's great. It's great. But yes, it's been all good. It's been all good.
Oh, so you've taken up boxing with not hitting back yet?
Not hitting back yet, no. I'm trying to get fitter first, and then maybe in the future, somebody trying to lash back out at me. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. I don't know. There's just something about taking whacks to the head repeatedly. I already kind of like... I've already, like, done enough damage to my brain with just loud noises over time, so I don't need somebody just to repeatedly punch me in the face. But I hear it's very good for the head. It's very good for... I remember, like, it's a really good outlet exercise. I used to have when I had time for the gym, part of being... I remember I worked in a hotel I think I've said this on the podcast before, when I finished uni, and I used to be on different shift patterns, and I can't really do that anymore because the times I want to go to the gym are now peak times, the only times I've got, so I don't really go to the gym. I kind of exercise at home. I've got a treadmill, that sort of thing, so I kind of try and keep myself fit here. But with the gym, I used to really like just being able to be in a good headspace and go when it's quiet and do. I do miss the gym. Like, I do miss the feeling of it, but I also think it puts me off because I can sort of work. I get quite nauseous sometimes when I exercise to an extreme. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's apparently it's a common thing. So I have to be quite controlled when I do it. Because I'm like, oh yeah, let's just push myself because I can do it, and then I'll just be like, oh god, I feel like I'm going to throw up, which isn't fun. And I just remember the last time I actually went to the gym, I was doing the arm rower, and I was just like, yep, I'm going to throw up, and I was just lying on the gym bathroom, like, ow,
contemplating life choices, and
yeah. This was for health.
Did you eat within a 45-minute period before you exercised?
That's the thing. It wasn't the food thing because I was really conscious of it because it was happening a couple of times. Wasn't a hydration thing. I even did the thing where, because there's loads of different people, you read up on it and there's contradicting information everywhere. Oh, make sure you're hydrated all the way through. Don't actually hydrate yourself while you're exercising. Do it before, because if you take sips while you're exercising, that can sometimes. And I'm like, Can you just tell my brain to stop making me feel sick? That's all I need to know. Because I don't get it in general things. You know, like if I'm going for a run or something, I don't. It was just like I just started to like, if I felt like I was pushing myself past a certain cardio point, my body just went bleh. But yeah, I think it's more of a case of I was probably moving up and down too quickly, and then the blood was rushing to my head, and it was one of those. But yeah, if you are a sports scientist person that wears shorts in winter and has thighs bigger than most people's future, please do let me know why that might be in the comments. But yeah, maybe we'll spar sometime and you can absolutely batter me. How tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
Okay, so we're fairly similar. So have you got big reach?
I think so. I used to have big reach in reference to Adam Reach on my FIFA careers quite a number of years, actually. And anyway, that's just a total offshoot. We weren't even talking about that.
No, I don't know why I brought that up. But you're bringing it back to Sheffield Wednesday. I'm just bringing it back to Sheffield Wednesday.
Just little tie-ins, because the audience don't want to listen to story. Well, they do. They actually do.
I'm sorry,
had a lot
of
feedback, but the preliminary stories that everybody always tells before the pod, like at the beginning of the podcast, people love it. People lap that stuff up. So
there's podcasts that I listen to that are 3 hours long, and the first good hour has got nothing to do with the context, and that's the whole point. That's the whole point of this one, anyway. Like, if you want like a news show, skip ahead, right? It is a news show. It's an everything podcast. Yes. This, but yeah, yeah. Good to see you've had a productive week on that front. Then, Jack.
Speaking of being sick at the gym, I do have a funny little story that I can't remember if I've told or not, but I was doing like this whole strongman fitness circuit thing. You know, with the rugby players have got that big like metal frame that they carry that like goes across their shoulders and they carry it to and from and stuff. So I was doing stuff with that, and then the sled, like the weighted sled thing, and I was like doing that repeatedly. I had to be sick, so I ran to the bin, chundered, just went straight back into it, and then this really huge, like someone that's clearly been on a couple of cycles of a certain substance, was in there doing his like overhead presses, and he watched me chunder and just go right back into it. And as soon as I'd finished, he gave me a fist bump and he was like, "That's some hardcore stuff, dude."
Well, it's the commitment, isn't it?
Yeah, that's my funny chunder story that you didn't ask for, but I gave you anyway.
Hope you're not eating your dinner right now.
Absolutely not. Yes. And if you are, then feel free to say hello to it as it comes back up.
I never know what's going to come out. I've been working with Jake for so long. I can kind of predict the flow, but like the one great thing about having you on the podcast is I have no idea what's going to come out of your mouth.
Yes.
And in this case, it was sick.
Yes, it really was.
Anyway. My week was fine, thanks for asking, by the way.
Yeah, how was your week?
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No, it's been a mad one, but doing early Christmas presents with people I'm not going to see until after Christmas now, and it's only like, what, first 12th we're recording this? So it's dating the podcast, yeah. So it's just trying to get everything done in the wrap-up for Christmas and make sure everything's ready, because I want the podcast to still roll out. I want everything to go, but I want to shut down, drink. I was going to say drink food and eat wine there.
Drink food and eat wine.
Yes.
My favorite combination.
That's exactly what I want. But we are getting there as we draw closer.
And some might say, oh, sorry, Karen.
No, go for it. No,
some might say having a mad one means he's been busy once again.
Oh God, he's got a zoom.
I've got a zoom. I've got a gimbal control on my camera.
For the audio listeners, he can. Oh no!
I did a dramatic zoom onto my eyes.
You and Jake with your toys.
It's great.
Housekeeping socials are available. He's running one of them. God forbid. At
yes,
Talking
I
am. You can also follow at Dexterity Box. Don't bother following his Twitter. You don't need to do that. Just follow ours. The Discord is available for members. If you support us at the membership tiers, you can click join below on the YouTube video and sign up. And you get some exclusive content, things like that. You get to chat. There was also going to be some really cool stuff coming on the relaunch. And if you are a 2-year member, I'm going to say this now before I forget. There's only a couple of you, and I believe you're in the Discord. DM me your address. That's not trying to be sinister. I will reach out to members, but
he said there is a very, very serious stare into the camera.
There is a few of you. If any of you at the £5 tier, basically, and if you've been a member for a couple of years, just DM me your address. There might be some stuff for the sort of the stuff we're doing in January. That I might send some stuff to you, or I might, just send you odd letters from Worko, and you can work out his descent into madness. You can also leave podcast reviews on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, things like that. Right. There, just for your information, there's only going to be one more podcast next week, which is possibly with, I think it's Jack and Jake, if Jake decides to come back from his journey down south and his world domination of Greg's has sufficed. He will, if he has succeeded with that, it should be those two, and that will be the last topical sort of podcast before we do a 2-week sort of pre-record podcast where there'll be our Christmas episode, there'll be our New Year's episode, and then back to sort of regularly scheduled programming. So yeah, you've got Worko week has turned into Worko month. Basically, you're here all the time.
It has
every episode, actually, I believe, until the new year.
I believe so.
God help him. You were on match duty again for Exeter City versus Sheffield Wednesday. Let's get into it now then. So what did you think of this one, Jack?
I, on numerous occasions, was shouting at my full voice as loud as I could be, many expletives, and I couldn't quite believe that I was watching the same Sheffield Wednesday team as previous games this season, really. There was no impetus on pressing. There was very, very little, and it was so frustrating. There was a few players that you would expect would be linchpins in the team on that game, and they just seemed lethargic again. It was very similar to the Derby game in that respect, really. And it even when they scored and went 1-0 up just before half time, nobody woke up. There was no urgency. There was no press, like full press, like it probably should have been. I don't know if that was a tactical thing or if it was just the players' mentalities. I don't know what was going on, but it was just such a frustrating game to watch. There was all of the edge of the seat was seeing how many times Stockdale could save it, because they had the better chances than Sheffield Wednesday did, other than a couple of very good Windass chances. But it was all in the second half, really, where Wednesday came alive. But even then, it was split-second instances, and then it was just gone again. It was just a battle in the midfield, and players losing the ball or the passes getting intercepted, and it was just so lethargic and so lacking in energy and urgency. And I don't know what's going on at the moment, but that just seems to be a thing that seems to be creeping in a little bit, and it's worrying me a little bit actually. But it was great. It was very undeserved that we did get the 1 point in the end, because it was a great little finish by Pato, by Big P, as we affectionately call him. But
I was going to say he's got a very different name on this podcast.
Yeah, very different name on this podcast. But very, very lovely little finish into the bottom right corner, finessed, and
it took until pretty much the dying
90
embers.
+4, 90 +4. It was, we salvaged that point, and I don't think we deserved it, quite frankly. But at least we got a point on the board. It's better than having none and keeping somewhat of a gap behind us, between us and fourth place. But it's frustrating to see this lack of urgency all the time.
I must say, I did say at the end of last week that we'll bounce back. And this is the first time I wasn't impressed, actually, with the bounce back. Because there wasn't a bounce back.
There was not.
It was dull again. It looked... for me, it was a little bit hollow at the end, with Darren Moore saying, this is the kind of game we'd lose last year, because I get that. Yes, he's right. But you're saying that a bit too much about the draws now, because this isn't last year anymore, Darren. And yes, we would have lost it, but we are not capitalising on what has been a strong position that we've put ourselves in. And granted, that is his doing, and that is his, his Wednesday team's doing. But I'm not happy with 4 shots on target to their 5. We had 55% possession and we had the more passes. But it's a team that are languishing in mid-table. They are 13th after that. And if we're going to go for the automatics, we need to be putting the points on the board in 3s here. Yes, never say die. 90 +4 Callum Patterson goal. That salvages a point. You can move on. It's just after, because I don't think Derby are that good. So the fact is, we've lost to 2 teams that, yes, Derby have got great players, but they drew again at the weekend. They are very inconsistent. So that could have been 2-1 games for Wednesday. And I'm starting to think like, right, we can't be dropping points, basically. I'm getting, I guess my thought process is getting a little bit harsher. Or am I being unfair?
I would say that the fact that you've just said that's 2 losses and they were actually draws.
Did I actually say that?
Yes, you did. But it's draws. It is draws that feels like a pair of losses because of how important they were to get the 3 points from both,
It's because we're just entitled Wednesday fans, isn't it? That's the truth. Because we're like, we should be... This team can play better than they did in the last 2 matches.
100%. 100%. It's individual performances that have been letting us down. It's not anything, in my opinion, it's not anything that, and sure, I know, haha, happy clapper, whatever kind of thing to say, but it's not a Darren Moore issue. It's a player mentality issue. There's certain players, and I don't feel like it's worth singling them out or naming them just yet, because we need to see how they are in the next few games, in the probably after the Boxing Day game. That's when we start really clamping down on naming and shaming, so to speak. But there's certain players who are just sort of, it's like one foot's out of the door almost with how they're performing. It's such a strange, it's such a strange mentality where, why are they not giving their all when there's clearly such a high team spirit at the club, and that's the message they're putting out and all that sort of thing. But then why exactly are certain players just turning up and like, oh, whatever, it's whatever. Is
that your opinion on it then? Do you think
my opinion on a couple of players are playing with that, seemingly that mentality, because they're not They're not running for the ball. They're not running for the interceptions. They're not running for the tackles like they used to be last year, or only a couple of them. Granted, the rest of them are performing admirably for the most part, but it's certain key positions that we just keep losing the ball all the time. And it's so frustrating because at the same time, I would argue, we need the bit of flair. And that's seemingly been our undoing in some games this season, is that we haven't really had a lot of that flair option. And it seems like that would be the sort of only thing that would bypass this great defense that a few teams have had against us. But then, yes, I know you're about to say, oh, well, we got Malik Wilks and we've got Lee Gregory, but Lee Gregory is unfortunately coming to the end of his career, I would say. Like, he's not the player he used to be. And Malik Wilks is still not match fit. And I know that there's a lot of Wednesday fans that are saying he's crap, he's not good enough, or whatever. What have we signed him for? He's not match fit. He's only just getting match fitness now. Why do you think he's not starting every week? That's
what
why.
I was going to say.
Sorry, Dex, for the rant.
It's all right. You love that one, the Wilkes one. What I was going to, I get, I think it's a completely valid point of view because I also share it on the Wilkes thing. But what I am going to say, because I always have to play the reasonable card, because I am probably one of the most reasonable Wednesday fans you will find. Because I try not to let my head roll and my heart roll it, and I try to look at it, objectively. We are unbeaten in 8 in the league. The last time we lost a game was against Plymouth. Where I'm starting to go, now, is we have had, in that time, 3 1-1s, 1 0-0, and it's like, their points drop. Because if you look, Lincoln City, Sheffield Wednesday, 1-1. Sheffield Wednesday, Bristol Rovers, 1-1. Exeter City, Sheffield Wednesday, 1-1. These are teams we lose to last season. Yes, they are. But there are also teams this season that we could be beating because the players really should. And I like that we're actually in that position. Because we're dropping points in terms of, we're dropping wins, basically. We're not, I'm feeling like a draw is a loss. And that is a higher mentality than we had last season. And it's a nicer place to be in. But you have got to look at the fact that there was a tweet earlier sharing the stats of Wednesday that they are the first EFL club or something this season. Is it this season or this calendar year? This calendar year to score 100 goals. The only other team in the English football pyramid is Man City. We're the only EFL club to do it. So that does say something about the fact that we always talk about, we've never got any strikers that have got any flair already, and then we're bagging them, as you were saying earlier.
However, that statistic is also registering how many players have just scored in general, the amount of goals scored by the club. Look at how many different goal scorers we had last season,
Yeah.
They were from all over the place. They weren't just the strikers. They were from everywhere on the pitch.
They were often from 30 yards.
Yeah. It was mental. So it's this awkward thing of it's just we're in this rut almost right now, but I also see it as a compliment to Sheffield Wednesday, because when exactly have the fan base had this sort of mentality where they think that we should be winning every single game? We haven't had that since, I would argue, the Steve Bruce leaving us season.
We've never lost it. As a fan base as a whole, I've got to say, I've got to play devil's advocate. We've never lost that, and that's why our fan base can be quite toxic online sometimes. Yeah. However, in terms of a realistic sort of reasonable approach, yes, I agree that I do feel like we will go out and we should beat everyone and anyone.
Absolutely. And that's not a bad thing, in my opinion. That's not an entitled Sheffield Wednesday fan opinion. That's just on paper. I hate the term on paper, but I'm going to say it. On paper, that's just statistically how the club should feel and how the players should feel. And it could even be argued that because the players think that, they're not putting a shift in. They're not putting a hard graft in because they think we're championship standard players, And this is Club X that have been in League Two for a long time and League One for a long time. Maybe that complacency is sometimes setting in a little bit too much, and that's why there's this lack of energy and lack of tempo with pressing and all that sort of thing. But what are your thoughts, Dex? I don't want to keep rambling on.
I don't. It's. I don't know. I'm making a lot of noises.
You are. You are.
I'm stuck in that position of we can easily go on a run. We're in that. I've not seen heads drop. I've not seen. I think I know the players. I'm interested. We might dive into it in the next few weeks about the players you're specifically referring to, but I still do see a desire there. I just think it's the consistency again, the consistency of the chances. I will say the weekend was poor, and the weekend was probably as poor as we've seen it in a long time, but we did salvage the point in the end. We need to be looking at strikers and we need to bring them in. We really need to be freshening that up a little bit because we need, when we are on form, we're still not clinical. And I think that's something we need to add to our game. And if complacency does well and truly set in, there's no excuse for a team to get complacent where you sat third in the league and you've got a chance of automatics. You're very close. So it shouldn't happen. But let's move on to the League One review. We've got Shrewsbury 3, Bolton 2. Ipswich played Peterborough and won 2-1. Burton and Derby County won 1-1. So as we said, that's why the Derby result was sticking out to me. Forest Green beat Cheltenham 1-0. Forest Green getting another 3 points there. Exeter City 1, Sheffield Wednesday 1, Lincoln City 0, Wickham 0. Morecambe Charlton and Accrington Stanley Portsmouth, as well as Oxford Barnsley, they were all postponed. So
frozen pitches, wasn't it? Something like that. I think I read.
It will have been, yeah, in this league. MK Dons 1, Fleetwood 2. MK Dons are down. They're gone. There's no. They've just sacked their manager.
Mm-hmm.
But it's free fall, and unless he can go on a hell of a run, they're in trouble. Cambridge 0, Plymouth 0. Plymouth dropping points again, which put Ipswich at the top, but we'll talk about it in a second. Bristol Rovers 1, Port Vale 0. So the table as it stands is Ipswich Town are the new league leaders on 45 points. Plymouth are in second with 44 points. Sheffield Wednesday are in third with 42 points. And then Barnsley are in fourth with 33 points. So there's still a gap, but they've got 2 games in hand now. So that could close quite quickly to just a 3-point gap if we're not careful. There was a chance there. There was a chance again, because if Wednesday had won, we'd have actually knocked Plymouth out a second and we'd have been in the automatics.
See, this is the annoying thing where it's almost like this group of players almost seem like they have to have their backs to the wall to be able to capitalize on things. That's when, if you look at last season, we were excelling at succeeding when that was the case. But when it's just, we're this far out in front of 4th place and we've got to capitalize on this chance of taking second, the pressures almost seems to be not as high, because it's like, don't worry, lads, we'll stay in 3rd if we don't manage it. I don't know if I'm probably being completely wrong, and that's not at all what they think. But that just is that's the outside perspective to me, that it's sort of like, well, we've been through a threat of relegation before. This is nothing compared to that. I don't know.
I think personally, you could just keep sort of there could be that mentality of, do we just slip under the radar and then just change things about for a run of like 5-6 games where you go for the throat, and you teams don't really predict you and predict how you're going to play, and you just dominate in a different style. It'd impress me quite a bit if he had something like an ace up his sleeve where he was trying different things out in training, and he sort of attacks a run of fixtures where he knows we can get some ground and attacks them in a slightly different way. Maybe shift formation, play a little bit more, up for it. go for the crosses a bit more. Go for it because we're very technical. We hold. We're not afraid of the ball this side. But do we play a little bit more direct at times and just try and change things up a little bit and really go for the throat with some teams? I don't know. I always like to think the best, and have they got an ace up their sleeve? Is he going to try something else out? And it's really difficult because it's trying to put like an opinion on a team that are unbeaten in 8.
Yeah, I can understand that, but I can also possibly say that it's part of a larger thing to talk about, which is the training facilities. Which, if you actually look at
the facilities
we've got,
we've had enough of those.
But because of what the facilities are, possibly there might be this whole thing where it's all theoretical, that they can only sit in a classroom type situation and discuss the tactics and the changing up of things, but then they don't have the space physically available to them to go out and start actually practically trying these other ways of playing out, But that's all part of a whole other talk and discussion, really. That's probably going to be reserved for another podcast at some point.
Should we move into the news, Jack?
Yes,
let's move into the news. So this is from the Yorkshire Live. Sheffield Wednesday set to make decision on trialists as former Brighton man seeks to impress. Sheffield Wednesday manager Darren Moore says he's looking at a handful of other trialists as well as former Brighton defender Ayo Tanimowo. Tanimowo played for Wednesday earlier this week in a bounce match against Huddersfield Town. The 21-year-old is predominantly a right back or wing back, but featured at right centre half against the Terriers. He's in a trial and he's still playing. This is not in the article, but he's in a trial and he's already played out of position. He'll fit right in. Back to the article. Moore says the club are likely to make a decision on Tanimowo after this weekend's league match with Exeter City. It's not happened yet. Obviously, this was slightly before that. He also says the coaching staff are running the rule over a number of other free agents. Sometimes opportunities present themselves at this time of year to look at talented players that are on a free, said Moore. It's really just having a look and taking the opportunity to look at one or two players. Tanimowo is one we looked at and are still looking at. We've not made a decision as of yet with him, but he's acquitted himself really well against Huddersfield. We've had him training with the seniors this week too. We'll come together as the staff after the weekend and make a decision on him. There are 2 or 3 others too that we are talking about. If we feel there's a benefit to us getting them in and trialing with us and the trial having a purpose and reason, then we'll have a look at them. But what we're not going to do is just open trials for anybody to come in. If it's the position we're not looking to strengthen them, what's the point? But there are 2 or 3 that we're looking at now, but we haven't decided just whether or to give them a trial or not. End quote. So this makes sense. He's a position we need. He's playing him at centre half. We need defensive reinforcements. His FIFA card's terrible, but we'll talk about that at the end of it. So just tell me your thoughts on this. He's 21, so it's a good age. If he's on trial, if he's on a free, this is the kind of signing you can see Darren Moore making. And if you roll the dice on them, he's shown he's got an eye for players. So
absolutely, and I do fully agree with the whole point of we won't just let anybody in because especially because we don't have Gary Monk managing us anymore. Evening, Gary, if you're listening. But yeah, totally agree. And the fact that he's 21 years old as well.
100th episode guest.
Yes.
Gary Monk.
Joking. Andy would love that episode, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree. The age and everything, I think it's the right sort of age to be going for because we've been going for senior players for a bit too long, I think. And it's not really shown a long-term interest in the club because it's always just been sort of like they'll be good for 2 years and then we're going to have to find somebody again. Whereas if you sign somebody that's 21 years old on a long contract, then you'll be good for 4 or 5 years, And I'm very much a long-term thinking person. And I do think that this is a sustainable way of doing business is, getting in sort of almost like apprentice players to learn from the likes of Michael Owekwe or Dominic Iorfa, or all that sort of thing, who are now the senior players at the club, and I think is a great thing that he's doing as well with not being just open arm to everybody. only getting in the right players rather than anybody that will just fit the gap for the time being and just put out that fire, so to speak. So I totally agree. I think it's a good bit of business. If the guy's got a lot of potential, then absolutely get him in.
Well, he might not have loads, to be fair, because he started in Norwich's youth team, went to Brighton's youth team, and then he got released from their under-21s. So we have done quite well sometimes picking up players from Premier League's academies if we've kept an eye on them. So don't expect him to come in and be a world beater, but he might have more potential than the sort of player we'd usually come in for.
Absolutely. And let's not forget as well, talking about potential, Jamie Vardy was released from the Sheffield Wednesday youth setup for being too small, and he went on to be quite the goal scorer, didn't he, in the future? So
when is he going to decide that he's got enough money now and he can just come back and play for little for Wednesday and bag him in?
Because he's still doing a good job in the Premier League.
I know he is, but I don't want him when he's completely gone. You know, where it's like, well, because a big thing about Jamie Vardy is his pace as well. So it doesn't. We don't want it completely gone, right? Because then we're in trouble.
Exactly.
Because then it's like, oh, why? We'll probably give him a 4-year deal or something, and it's Jordan Rhodes all over again. But just come back to Wednesday. If we get promoted this year, if I had the career that Jamie Vardy had, right? Even I'd have got past my Wednesday sort of pain by now, I'm sure. And I'd just go, I don't need it. I'm just gonna do it.
Can you imagine the hero's welcome that he'd get as well? He'd be beloved. He'd be like the Messiah to.
I'd hope so, but our fan base can be a little bit. Can you imagine if he has a few bad games and everybody just goes, "Oh, he's past it," and I'd just be like, "Right, I'm out, guys."
Yeah.
That'd be the point where I'd probably be like, yeah, I think we're too far gone.
I hate to make the comparison, but I think it would be very similar to when Billy Sharp returned to Sheffield United and captained them to the Premier League. You know,
yeah,
it would be a very similar story, and I think we're due a story like that. So please, Mr. Vardy, please, Jamie, come on. You know you want to come back and be.
I mean, how old is he now? He's 35. So in January, he will be 36. So if we got promoted this season and then really went for it and chucked some money at him, sign a 36-year-old Jamie Vardy, or even the season after if we have a rebuild season next season, and then a 30. He's not going to play for us.
He's not going to play for us.
30s.
Yes, he's not.
Yes. We're going to sign a 40-year-old Jamie Vardy that can't run anymore.
Well, Wayne Rooney played for Derby County at that exact same age for a good couple of years, and
it's true.
It worked for them. It worked for them, you know. Making the weird comparison, but Luka Modric is almost 40, and he's playing in the World Cup, and he's still being a world beater, you know?
Yes, but Modric also doesn't rely on his pace.
Yes, he doesn't.
I'm not saying Vardy relies on his pace, by the way. He's a great finisher.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's part of the reason he's quite tricky. Right. Whereas if you're more of a technical player and you're a player that relies on your attacking mindset and where you're laying off the ball and vision, it's a bit of a difference.
It is.
But be a hell of a promotion party though if we did have
absolutely.
We went up.
Do you think there'd be a rebuild season next season? If we did go up, anyway.
I think we're not dominating this league enough for us to not have to put on some hefty additions next season. If we were bossing it at the top, then yeah. But I think we're going to this side probably needs a good half of it adding to. Quality-wise.
Yeah, I do see a few of the players that we have signed as just a means to an end to get us out of League One and then sell them on.
I think it's really clever because we've signed good ages. We've signed ages where players will grow into it. Not all of them will, but we've got players that could. And we've also signed players that will do us a couple of years in the Championship and be squad players. I think we've done really, really well with that.
But I'm totally in agreement that rebuild, half the squad will need,
Yes,
replacing.
but I think also that we've signed some very good squad players for the Championship. Yeah. So that it's not like anyone would go. The only players I can sort of see probably not staying if we get promoted. The likes of like Jack Hunt and stuff. There's players that wouldn't be part of a top end of the Championship. Let's try and get there. We've got to get out of this league first.
Absolutely.
Let's have a look at Tani Moho's FIFA card. It's awful. It's a bronze. It's 55. 55 rated right by, 80 pace, 41 shooting, 45 passing, 54 dribbling, 47 defending, and 58 physical. Absolute garbage. So hopefully he's all right in real life. Right, let's go into this one. So Bannan's posted on his Instagram after the match. Gutted to have to go off yesterday with injury. Hopefully not too bad and get some positive news this week. Boys went on to the end. If you can't win, you don't lose. Well done, Callum Patterson, on his goal. So if you're a Wednesday fan that's been living under a rock, Bannan needed some treatment and he's gone off injured at the Exeter match. And it's a bit nervy, this one, because it was one of those that Darren Moore said he wasn't prepared to let it happen when Barry wanted to carry on. So is it something good potentially played through? Maybe, but if the technical team are worried about him, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I will say, from watching the injury happen and all the rest of it, he did get up and he started running about and he was looking totally normal. He only really limped for like 10 to 15 seconds after he got back up again after the treatment. And then he just sat. He was like, you know, when the players sometimes just sit down and say, no, I'm done in, I need to go off, kind of thing. That's just what he did about a minute or two later on. And it almost seems like it was one of those pull injuries that was cramping up on him as well, maybe. I don't know. That's how it appeared. We've known that players have played through a lot of pain before, like playing through broken toes and all sorts, and that must be horrendous when you're kicking a ball. But I would say if he is injured, then it's time for certain other players in that central midfield to step up. And I think they can, but
who do you think goes in the Barry Bannan mould for if he's injured, if he's out for a while? Do you think it's Backinson?
I do, because he did do that. He did play that role when Barry Bannan came off, and he was doing it very well. He just didn't have the same long range accuracy as Bannan, unfortunately.
Do you play three in the midfield?
I would say yes, but that's because I always play that on Football Manager. But
you're another me, but just with Football Manager.
But yes, I absolutely would keep one back to cover the defense, and then two box to box sort of midfielders. I absolutely would do that.
I would. Yeah, I'd play. We tend to play more of a flat three with a wanderer, though, don't we? That's not an official term.
That's not an official term. As a disclaimer to all tacticians,
football purists. Yes. Who would I put in that midfield? Byers, Fizz.
Is Byers fit, by the way? Because he's not featured for quite a while, it seems.
That's a very good point.
Because I
think he's coming back. Wasn't there a message like him and Windass are back training?
Yeah.
So was it? It's one way to find out, isn't there?
There is.
There's the I swear I saw before the Exeter match. He was.
I know that Jake, listening to this podcast, is just absolutely going ballistic because he's Mr. Statman and he would know.
He is our Statman.
And he'd just be absolutely going haywire, like, no, he is injured, or no, he's not. You know,
if he stopped prioritising Greg,
exactly,
we'd have the information. Exactly. And if he actually came and did his job, you know, that would be fantastic.
Stopped sending me photos of him in a full-on Greg's outfit, which you can see if you leave 250 likes on this YouTube edition of the podcast. Posted by the Twitter account @TalkingWed. Go and follow us if you haven't already. Did you like that little gap of filler that I filled in there while you're looking things up? Yes, it's wonderful.
Still looking. Carry on.
You're still looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the people, the people that I would put in midfield, I would probably be inclined to agree is Backinson, Byers, and why is my head thrown a blank?
Why am I on dial-up? This is taking so long. It's like I'm on dial-up. I can literally hear the AOL dial-up sound
thing. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Carry on.
Although I'd maybe even slot Pato into a big P into like the battling midfield role, because he's played that before at Cardiff and he did very well at that role at Cardiff. In fact, I think he was playing that role a good bit in their promotion to the Premier League season. but I'd maybe slot him into the former Sam Hutchinson role, maybe, because, well, as you know, he makes a very good centre half on FIFA 21, not FIFA 22, sadly, but I'd slot him into that sort of role because I do think that's also a role that we've been sorely missing a lot of the time this season, because that sort of battling energy isn't really what we've been.
I've made an error here.
I
thought he was one of the ones that was close. That's why I was like, oh, we'll put Byers as a week away. It's one of those ominous injuries where he just keeps getting pushed further and further.
Right.
So no, he's not back. So that makes the midfield interesting. So if we are playing a midfield three, who do we put there then?
Who do we put there? Indeed.
Well, Fizz has kind of got it, hasn't he?
It's really funny how at the start of the season we were literally saying about how overloaded the central midfield is, and then now we're talking about, oh God, who do we put there when there's these injuries that have happened? Who do we put there? Maybe it's a thing in January. We need to sign someone to fill in this injury gap, you know? But
we started. Oh, yeah, we started with Fizz, Bannan, and Volks. So Volks is in there. I always forget we've got Volks, even though we play Sano. That's like, I think you probably, the only way you can really do it, if we're going to play that three, is Bannan, Backinson, Volks. Now, I would play Fizz as the advanced midfielder, and I'd put Backinson and Volks in the middle. Yeah, we're all right. We can still play
Volks,
that three.
Of course, Volks. Why did I forget all about Volks?
I've just said it about 3 times. Are you all right?
Honestly.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Volks.
So,
Volks.
But that does leave us without sort of a change in that midfield. Unless he puts Iorfa in the midfield.
But then who covers the central defence? Because obviously Iwekwue's out injured.
Didn't Iorfa play wing back on Saturday?
Yeah, I think Palmer came off, and then
so he's not covering. He's not
covering into wing back. I think
he's not covering. He's not covering central defence. Is he?
He's not. Good point.
Because he had Palmer, McGuinness, and James as the centre backs, didn't he? He played a 3, didn't he? I am right.
I think you're right. Yeah,
because we had Johnson and Iorfa as wing backs, and then we had James, McGuinness, Palmer across the back. That seems right in my head.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the lineups, and that seems right in my head. That's how we played that.
Yeah, I think so.
I remember. Yes, but Smith and Windass up top's an interesting one. I don't mind that, but
Windass isn't a striker, as he keeps proclaiming on Twitter and all that stuff.
That's a good point. Actually, you say that, and I know it. Do you put Backinson and Fizz, or Volks and Fizz, or Volks and Backinson in that midfield, and then is the central point as the more of the cam? Do you put Windass there and put Gregory and Smith up top?
I would,
or Smith and Wilkes, or Gregory and Wilkes, or I would as well.
I probably would. Now thinking about it, actually. I keep forgetting. I keep in my head subconsciously. I always think, oh yeah, well, Windass is part of the strikers, but he's not.
I have the belief that Fizz can play Bannon's role. I would actually put Byers in the Bannan role if he was fit.
Yeah,
but
yes, I would agree as well. Actually,
but I would say that Fizz can probably play it and see how he gets on with it. And I'd then put Windass as an advanced midfielder there. But that's just the opinion of some idiots on a podcast.
It is. We're not tacticians. What
would you do about the Bannan situation? Let us know in the comments. It'd be interesting to hear you on this one. Hopefully it's nothing serious. We'll find out over the course.
Yeah, we're only thinking about the worst case scenario right now, but, I'm sure it won't be the case of him being out for a long time. Touch wood, fingers crossed, all that superstitious stuff.
Hopefully. One of our youngsters, Will Truman's gone on loan to Mickleover Football Club on a month long, so he's joined the others that have been out that we've previously spoken about. Mickleover, where's that?
That's another place that's near me. Why are they all coming to teams that are near me? What's going on? Have they tracked my IP? Has the youth director tracked my IP address and has just said, right, what that idiot from the occasional host of that podcast lives there. Let's send all these youth players near to where they live. Is that what they've done? Because this is
nah. They don't know we exist.
No, they probably do, but they think we're like a mosquito. They probably have the same attitude to us, like we're a mosquito, I think. But
to be fair, Jake always seems to speak to everybody, and has spoken to some people who've been very nice about everything. So there's and we all know Art listens to this at some point.
Yeah, we do.
Because I am basically Sheffield Wednesday's #1 scout now, as we are aware. I need to get back to that. You notice we weren't linked with
Chancery.
Yeah, it's very much one of those situations. Let's discuss Callum Patterson, because we kind of glossed over it last week. Now, this is from the Star. There's been an elaboration on the Patterson story.
An elaboration?
Speaking ahead of the game at Exeter City, Moore said of the 28-year-old, quote, "We've had nothing official at all. I've not heard anything, but it is relatively early. I've had nothing from Hearts, so I can't really comment on that. He's part of the plans. As what you've said is hearsay. As far as I'm concerned, he remains and keeps doing what he's doing for us. He's a player. He's playing his part and will continue to do so. I'll just treat it as speculation because we've not had an official approach," end quote. So that advancement is pretty much him saying nothing, because they've not approached for him. However, there has been quite a statement of intent on the Hearts side. If you read all the socials and the likes, they are very keen on him. He's scoring for us. Are we at a point where we now try and maybe put a 1 year in front of him, or do we just not panic and just go with the flow? What are your thoughts on this one, Jack?
Well, overall, I think it's agents talking again to try and force somebody, even if it's not Wednesday, to put a contract in front of him. That's what I think this is. And will it work? Who knows? But I think Big P knows that he's valued at the club, very much so. And I think he seems happy to play the role that he's playing. You know, I think even Darren Moore said that he's bided his time, yes, but he's a complete professional, and his attitude's stellar when it comes to this stuff. He seems very much like Liam Palmer's sort of a professional attitude, actually. Even though Liam Palmer's being played every week, but I honestly say yes, stick a 1 year in front of him, and then an optional extension as well, and just see how he gets on really with it. Because I don't want him to go for free, even though. Did we pay money for him from Cardiff, or did we sign him on a free?
It was
we
free.
Didn't. So I would not want to lose him for free, I guess. Whether we do,
I actually, you always forget he's 28.
He's not past it in any way, shape, or form at all.
The only problem I've got is I wouldn't play contract hardball with him. If he's pushing, I would do the same. I would offer him a year with an option if certain clauses were met. However, if he started pushing back on that, I'd be like,
okay.
He's exactly. He's not somebody I would, and I actually really like him. I like his character. I like the fact that he always gives it all and he cares. But I don't know. I don't know if it's because for me it's very difficult with a player that doesn't cement themselves to a position and doesn't stand out in that position. It's very difficult for me to tolerate them playing hardball. But I don't even think he's that character. So,
no, I don't think he is either. I don't think he'd go, because in an interview that he's given fairly recently, he also said that he's quite well settled in Sheffield. And why would he, when he's just got married, why would he want to upset that state of being settled just to go back to Scotland again when he's said
going home though as well,
he's
isn't
rooted
it?
in Sheffield now, kind of thing. So. But then Marco Matthias was very much rooted in Sheffield. He's even still got a Portuguese restaurant, bakery thing in Sheffield, I believe. And he didn't really stay around, did he? But that's a callback from the past. That's like a pub quiz player. Jeez. Anyway.
Who scored an absolute worldie against Leeds on that goal?
And made naff all appearances for Sheffield Wednesday. That goal was something. Marco Matthias, had he been fit, would have been an absolute world beater, and he would have been.
It's more of a case of him being played properly as well. Like It was that weird time of Sheffield Wednesday where we signed players and didn't really
utilize them properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very weird. It was almost like we were money laundering. We weren't.
We weren't.
I would like to clarify.
Legal disclaimer,
Mr. Chansiri.
This is all hearsay. This
yeah.
is not in any way what actually happened. This is just the outwards.
It was a joke.
It was a joke. Please.
But it was just like we were spending so much weird money. It was the hands weren't talking to each other.
They weren't.
Hands don't talk. But the fact that we had a recruitment team that wasn't really speaking to the coaching team. And yes, Carlos has got all this control, but like, is he trust? It was weird. It was a weird time. Anyway, Sheffield Wednesday play Oxford next. We're past the news. That is the news over.
That is the news over with. Wow.
Oxford at home. So we've got them at Hillsborough. Oxford have got 25 points. They are currently 16th in League One with a record of 6-7-7. 3 points. 12 points at home, 3-3-4. 3-4-3 away, so 13 points. So they're actually technically better on the road. Their last match was a 1-1 draw. They are a draw merchant side. They did it to us last season. Where do you see it going this time?
If I remember rightly, we did we not beat them by quite a considerable margin at home? Or am I imagining that?
No, you're imagining that because I vlogged that one.
Who am I thinking of then?
Forest Green.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why I've imagined that as being
I vlogged that one as well.
Or was it at their place? I can't remember. Either way, I just remember one of them. It was quite an emphatic win, I think. I might be talking completely out my backside, and I'm making all this up. But I do, if they're a draw merchant side, like you say, I think it's going to be very difficult to break them down. But I
might be lying. I just always feel like when we play them, they are. They were playing for a draw from the off when I watched us play them.
Yeah.
Their fans very much disagreed with that, but I was like, that's what it felt like.
That's what it felt like to the home crowd. But
yeah.
I can just imagine them being very difficult to break down, and then if and or when we do, and we score, I think the feeling will be euphoric because it will be so hard fought,
Yeah, you're off base. They beat us.
They beat us? Oh, well.
22nd of January at their place last year, they beat us 3-2.
Oh. So I'm talking out my backside. Love that. You caught.
No, we didn't draw. They beat us at home as well. They did Oxford did the double on us last season. I was there, and
whoops. Who the heck was I thinking of? You know what? It's not important.
This is how I don't remember matches. Right, I just don't. This is what this league is doing to my brain. I don't like playing Oxford because they seem to get one over on us. So this is where Wednesday either kick back or we lose 1-0.
Yes. I'm inclined to agree. And I just really hope that Mr. Moore puts a rocket up their backsides and gets them to press more. Dear God, the amount of just sitting back and this like stale mentality that the players seem to be having, it's doing my head in. And you can now see with the state, or hear rather, for you audio listeners, I'm not forgetting about you. You can now hear how frustrating it is to just see them say, oh yes, there's openings that I can tackle and win the ball back, but I won't. And it's just, I just really hope that
it's become Mickey.
Welcome to the Talking Wednesday Clubhouse, guys. So I considerably hope that there will be some moments during this game that actually they will decide to press again and decide to up the tempo again, because otherwise Worko and many of the other Talking Wednesday audience will not be very happy. So that's my sorry for the random Mickey rant there, but
you can stand off the soapbox.
That's my.
I like it.
That's my hot take, guys.
Please stop doing that. I feel very uncomfortable.
Okay.
I feel very in danger right now.
In danger?
Yeah. There's something about that makes me feel very uncomfortable.
It's Mickey Mouse, Dex.
Yeah, it's...
Where do you see the sinister intentions here?
Well,
have
you ever watched the stuff from the 60s?
Very predatorial sometimes, isn't it? It's rather...
No, it's more of a case of just research what Walt Disney used to things that were in there, right? Anyway, that's it for this episode of the Talking Wednesday podcast, because I'm not talking about England and the fact that we should have won that quarter-final of the World Cup, because all he needed to do was make attacking changes and attack a game where we were the better side. We were better than the world champions, and he brings Mason Mount on when you've got players like Jack Grealish who gets 2 minutes against the side that Bukayo Saka was ripping apart and they couldn't control him. So when he's running down that side and completely dominating that half, why don't we do the same on the left-hand side, eh? Why don't we think, oh, well, because I said this about Grealish because he always draws fouls. He could do the exact same thing Saka's doing and overwhelm them, and then we would be too much for them. And then somebody even said, why didn't you just bring Rashford on in that position earlier? I also agreed. That could have also worked. But he didn't.
It's a callback to the Euros final against Italy, where for the first 15, 20 minutes, they were going full like Premier League high tempo press and they couldn't deal with it. And then suddenly it was, oh no, we'll sit back, lads, and just we'll nick the 1-0. Yeah. We'll be very defensive and soak up all the pressure and then hit them on this counter that never happens and have Harry Kane drop all the way down to the anchorman position.
This might be a really controversial take. But if Eddie Howe was the manager of England right now, we'd have won the World Cup.
Yep.
Won the World Cup this year.
Won the World Cup, would we, Dex? You went very...
We'd have won the World Cup.
Would have won the World Cup.
Harry Kane lifting the trophy. You've seen them all. They've waited for this day.
We've been waiting for this day since 1966 when we last lifted the cup, and now we get to have a second star embroidered onto the jerseys just above the England logo. Yes.
I genuinely believe we're not going to get Eddie Howe because of all the oil money at Newcastle currently. But if he was manager, he's the manager England need because he's not afraid.
Nope. He's not afraid to make the big decisions that you probably need to make. Whereas I think Gareth,
and I do agree. So like people say Tuchel's available, I would take that by the way. But if we're talking English managers, and it should be because I know a lot of people have got the opinion that we need to win it with an English manager, sort of thing. I don't necessarily agree with that. However, if we are, Eddie Howe should be England manager, but he would also be stupid to take the. I don't know though, because he'd ruin his club football because Newcastle are really good and he's in a good position. But I do think if it starts to drop off with Newcastle, he will get sacked in the next couple of years.
Yes.
Whereas his style of football with England's current crop of players,
it'd be perfect.
It could be the match made in heaven. Years. Yeah.
There are actually rumours, that since the Glazers have put Man United on the market, that the Newcastle owners are thinking of selling Newcastle and buying Man United. There are serious rumours that might be the case. If they did, they'd become the biggest, even bigger villains than the Glazers in my books. But there are some rumours that might happen. So Eddie Howe might be sacked anyway when if that does happen, But who knows? But
I said I weren't going to talk about it.
Yes.
But
it's just too much of an emotional issue to not.
I said this to my mate yesterday as well because we've just rearranged one of our Christmas trips. So we always go up and see him. He's coming to us, and we've managed to rearrange something for like New Year and that. And I said I'm not going to talk about it, and then proceeded to rant for about 15 minutes about it. So I'm going to have to end this podcast because otherwise I will do the exact same. But Jack, have you got anything to add on this fine evening?
I wouldn't say so. No. I would just say, leave us a review because we need more. On all podcast platforms, you can do that. Drop a like on the YouTube video of this podcast to get it in the algorithm and get more Wednesday fans seeing it. And thank you for listening and watching again. It's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, and hopefully you do like Jack because he's going to be around for a while.
Oh,
And if you don't, I don't care, because I think he's all right.
If you don't, that just makes me laugh even more. I can do more jokes about it. It's great.
You are a dad without children.
I am.
Your dad jokes are elite. Anyway, children you know about. Anyway, that is it for episode 95 of the Talking Wednesday podcast. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you in the next episode of Talking Wednesday. Oh, no, you meant to say bye. That's the whole thing. I'm waiting for a cue, Jack.
Bye.